Check us out to hear the latest on life in the volunteer state. Yvanka and her guests discuss everything from life, love, and business with a Tennessee flair.
It's a Tennessee thing!
Always relatable, always relevant, and always a good time. This is Talking Tennessee, and now your host, Yvanka.
This episode is brought to you by the Landis Team, your go-to real estate family in East Tennessee. If you are looking to buy or sell, we are the ones you should call. Give us a call at 865-660-1186 or check out our website at YvankaSellsRealEstate.com. That's Yvanka, YVONNCA, sellsrealestate.com.
Welcome back to Talking Tennessee with Yvanka, and I am your host, and I am here with such inspiration. This woman is a person that I need to know more. It's Dr. Avice Reid. Welcome to Talking Tennessee. How are you?
I am fine. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I don't really like talking about myself, but you've convinced me to do so.
Yes.
Let's see where it goes.
So let's tell my viewers exactly your title. What is your title right now?
The interim, and I emphasize interim. I'm the interim president and CEO of the Knoxville Area Urban League.
Now that is a mouthful, but you'll understand why when we get into this conversation. Thank you so much for coming. And I just want to talk about who is the woman? Who is Avice Reid?
That's a good question. How long do we have? No, seriously, I like to think that I am, number one, a child of God.
Yes.
I think that drives everything that I do. I am someone who is, first of all, a native Knoxvillian. And I say that a lot because I want this city to be so inviting that people who aren't from here want to rush and be a part of here.
Yes.
I want people who drive by to stop and say, oh, why am I going anywhere else? And so I strive to make Knoxville an inviting city, a place where people want to be. As you know, I'm a native Knoxvillian, as I said earlier. When I graduated from college, I had offers other places, but
yes.
I wanted to stay here. And so it's important to me that it's a wholesome place, that it's a place where people can thrive, where people can enjoy all the amenities that everyone else can have. I don't want it
yes.
to be a place for the haves and the have-nots and people looking through a fence hole trying to say, boy, I wish I could have a part of that. So that's who I am. I love my family. I'm a family person. I have 4 wonderful, awesome grandchildren. Unfortunately, they don't live here. Oh my gosh. Unfortunately, they don't live here. And part of the reason they don't live here is because I have 2 daughters.
Okay.
And they both did not see Knoxville as an inviting place for young adults. And so they moved to other cities. My oldest daughter moved to Nashville.
Okay.
Because she saw that more inviting, more inclusive. My youngest daughter moved to the Atlanta area, Lawrenceville, Georgia, because of that. So that's another reason why I'm driven to make Knoxville a welcoming place. I don't want people who were fortunate enough to be born here to not see Knoxville as the place to continue to live here.
I think that you, of what I've heard off camera and on camera, you are dedicated to this community. You're dedicated to build up this community. You're open to have the conversation with people about what Knoxville is, what you see of Knoxville, and you're willing to tell people to do the work. You know, we live in a world now that everybody thinks its success is overnight. And they think lights, camera, action. And so I'm of the belief hard work will pay off. I do feel like that you have to have a relationship with God and let Him guide your steps. Would you agree with that?
Wholeheartedly. I wouldn't do anything without God's guidance. I did in my younger days, and I made some mistakes.
Yes.
And so
He laughed at us while we were making them.
So I'm glad He's forgiving and doesn't hold any of those against me. But as you were saying, it is important to have relationships.
It is.
I'm fortunate that I've been able to work in many different areas as a volunteer.
Yes.
Because being a volunteer, the time commitment works the way your time works.
Yes.
And so because of that, I got to have up close and personal relationships with a lot of people, a lot of nonprofits to see what their niche is, how they can make a difference in the community. And it's sort of like a bridge from one to the other.
Yes.
Because once you work in one area and see what they have, then that sort of propels you to another area.
Yes, ma'am.
And it also propels you to be able to help people as you come through life and see the issues they have. You can make those referrals. Say, come on with me. You don't have to stay where you are. I know an organization that can help you address whatever the issue is.
That's awesome.
And so, you know, I have worked in, I don't even know how many nonprofits.
Yes.
I don't know. People ask me, how many boards are you on? I said, I don't know.
She said, I don't know. I just show up.
That's right. I don't know. I just show up. I live by my calendar.
That's a community involved leader. But I do think in leadership, you have to, people ask my family all the time, how do y'all do so much? And I'm like, we just don't think about it. We just do it. Because I think you slow your brain down by thinking about everything you need to do. You just need to do it. And when I was researching you and I asked around in the community, you know, because I always ask, you know, who would y'all like to hear next? You know, whose story is compelling to you? You know, I mentioned your name and I said, I don't know everything she's done, but I respect her from afar. So what is your opinion? And not one person said that you're a bad pick for the podcast. Every one of them said, Ivanka, you're on the right track. Ivanka, you need to get her. And shout out to Tammy White, because Tammy stayed on me because she was like, Ivanka, her story is amazing and she needs, your platform needs her. That's exactly what she said. Your platform needs her. And I was like, but I agree, because you've done so much in your life, not just in business, but in your community service and everything. She worked at TVA. Let's talk about TVA. So you started at TVA. How many years were you at TVA, and what was your position, and what did you end out at, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, no, I was at TVA for 34 years.
34 years.
And the interesting thing is, when I went to Knoxville College. I'm a graduate of Knoxville College. And while I was at Knoxville College, TVA came over to the college and said they wanted a co-op student. And back in those days, you actually left school for a term and worked full time in the corporation. You didn't do it both. So that meant that I would physically leave college
and go to
Chattanooga, because it was in Chattanooga, and work full time, 40 hours a week in the corporate world, and then return the next quarter to school. And so they were doing that. The interesting thing is TVA had done its homework. They were working at HBCUs. They wanted to increase the pool of African Americans who were actually in application development, because they were creating computer applications. They had done the homework. They wanted, because TVA is in the 7 state areas, they went to all the HBCUs in the 7 state areas. Fort Valley State had the best score. They had all these scores of what they were looking for in schools. The test results, the number of graduates, what they were doing post-graduation. All of this, TVA had done all this research. And Fort Valley scored the highest of all of the HBCUs in the 7 state area. Knoxville College scored second.
Okay.
So they had gone to Fort Valley and got
My grandfather graduated from Knoxville College.
Oh, awesome.
It's so great to hear this story.
Yes. So they went to Fort Valley and got a couple of co-op students, and then they needed another one, so they came to Knoxville College. And several of us applied. I was selected. Didn't know what I was doing. It was just like you are walking away from the known to go to the unknown. But it opened up all kind of doors for me. I was extremely nervous. I had never been away from home, so here I'm going down to Chattanooga, don't know where I'm going to live, what I'm going to do.
Don't know anybody.
I'm just going to go to work. The thing about it is, what really propelled me to do that is the summers between high school and college, freshman, the summer between freshman and sophomore, I worked for the city of Knoxville as a playground leader.
Really?
I was a playground leader. I had the key to the toy box. And so I would show up every day to the playground and get the toys out and make sure that
unlock it and lock it back up.
Lock it back up.
Make sure all the toys stay.
That's right. Make sure all the children were safe. And so when they came and asked us to apply for this job as a co-op student, it included a summer job, and I would make twice as much as I had made on the playground.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, even though this is taking a risk, I won't have to go sit out in the sun anymore on the playground.
Yes.
I can be inside and get paid twice as much. So that was my drive to take the job. But I learned so much about writing computer programs and how that worked.
Wow.
And so even when I would go back to college, because I alternated doing that, I was actually able to teach one of the classes for my grade, Fortran programming, because I had learned Fortran programming at work. So when I had to sign up for the class, it was like, okay, we're going to let you teach the class. The teacher was in the class, obviously.
Right.
But to monitor, see how it goes. And so I ended up getting that A because of what I had learned in the job and translated it to the classroom and able to teach my others, the fellow students, how to write Fortran programs. So anyway, I ended up doing that, working at TVA. And so at TVA, when I came back as a graduate, I was hired as a mathematician.
Yes.
Because I was a math major, by the way. I was hired as a mathematician. I was a programmer analyst, program development. I ended up supervising a group of IT developers. I was a project manager, certified, got the credentials to be a project manager. So I had lots of different hats at TVA.
Mm-hmm.
But then
out of your 34 years.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And it was great. I thought, why would anybody work anywhere else when you have TVA?
Let me ask you this. Building up your career at TVA, back in the times that you started, was there pushback being a Black woman?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Okay. Yeah.
No, there were times.
Yes, ma'am.
Because first of all, I worked out after post-graduation when I worked at TVA. I worked at TVA in Norris at the engineering lab.
Okay.
That in itself was different. I was the only Black female out to the engineering lab, and there was one Black male. And there was, if you know anything about the city of Norris, especially back in the 70s, no Black people lived in Norris. And
Not many do now.
Yeah, and they had a one real restaurant in town, and so we would go down there for lunch, etc. And I'll never forget, one day I walked in there and somebody just looked over and said, "Where do you live?" It was just like, surely you can't live in Norris.
Yes.
We get ready to tear up the city if you live here.
Yeah.
So it was very welcoming during the day, but it was clear that you needed to leave as soon as you left your employment at TVA and get out of the city. But anyway, I ended up working in Norris, and then I went downtown to work. But there were several instances where I had to fight for promotion. I had to.
Please speak on it.
Yes, I had to actually one day, went to file an EEO complaint and I had everything lined up. I had one supervisor.
I know you had all your documents.
Yes, I
know you
did.
did.
But you know, the thing about it is I had one supervisor who kept saying, you needed to do this, and we would outline what I needed to do to go to the next level.
And you do it.
And we would do that, and then it was like, well, let's add one more thing, and you need to do this. And that's the one that I went to say, we don't have to file a complaint because the measurement keeps moving. But, you know, I say look at God over time, because what happened is, you know, I got other positions, he got other positions, we reorganized, and so I was, as I said, I supervised a group of application developers. He was among the people that I supervised.
Really?
And so when he retired, because he was older than me, he retired before I did. When he retired, I was his supervisor's supervisor.
Really?
So I went to his
retirement
party. And I went to his retirement party. Oh, I hope you enjoy your retirement.
Viewers, are you hearing that? This, she said, basically the person that was trying to hold her back, God stepped in, and before it was all said and done, she was his supervisor and then became the supervisor of his supervisor. So, and the reason why I'm reiterating that is you never know where God will lead you. And a lot of times when you are in a situation that it doesn't feel like you are being treated fair, one thing about God, that God does not discriminate, and God will step in on your behalf and give you favor. And so, but you had to do the work, and look what you did, you know, in the 70s. That's not the easiest thing. So while you were at TVA, is that where you got the love for nonprofits? Is that where you started?
I'll never forget my first time serving on any nonprofit. It's Fonts Crediting Agency. It was the first one.
Okay.
And someone else who worked at TVA had served on that board, and when his term was up, he asked me if I would represent TVA on this board. And I was like, what is a board and what do they do?
Yes.
And so, you know, of course I went on to learn to serve. You know, from that I was on the United Way Allocation Committee, chaired one of those committees. And it just seemed natural as things progressed, the YWCA, and you just name it. It was...
You were drawn to it.
I was drawn to it. And you would learn about one and then, you know, serve on another one. And it's funny because I made a career change by leaving the city and going to the Police Advisory Review Committee, chairing that. But when I was in leadership,
back up.
Yeah,
what did you do? You went to go work where?
Oh, well, what I said was one of the volunteer positions that I had at TVA. When I was working at TVA, one of the places I volunteered for was the City of Knoxville Police Advisory and Review Committee. Has civilian oversight.
Now keep in mind, she was in a career that basically you earned that career and you were doing fine. But you still felt like you wanted to do for your city.
Right.
You wanted to do for your community. Keep going.
Yeah, so see, the thing about it is I was volunteering in that capacity because it was important. I mean, here we have issues with the police and the community. And there was, you know, let's be real, it was not good relationships.
No.
You know, and when the Police Advisory Review Committee was formed, it was after 4 men, 3 of whom were black, in a 7-month period were killed, either being pursued by a police officer or in custody of a Knoxville police officer. And those kind of conditions raised community, you know, the community was in outrage. And so Mayor Victor Ash was the mayor at the time, and he formed this committee to provide that oversight, which means you review all cases of discrimination or any complaints against the police department. And so that was one of my volunteer opportunities. But how that came about was when I went through Leadership Knoxville, I went through at TVA. My roommate, and I don't know if you've ever been through Leadership Knoxville, the first time you gather, you are thrown in with a roommate situation with somebody you don't know, and you wonder, why in the world am I going to be with this person? But my roommate ended up being Robin Askew.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Back then, was it like now, when you first get there, you could not tell your title or you couldn't say your last name?
No.
Because ours, we couldn't.
Yeah, no,
we couldn't for the first
day and a
day and a half.
The first day and a half. You just the first name.
So imagine that. You go on a trip with people you don't know. All you know is their first name. You don't have enough time to even look up to try to find out who the person is.
Right.
And then she was thrown into that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So Robin Askew ended up being my roommate. And again, I didn't know her, never seen her at all. But we spent the night talking.
Yes.
That was the thing. You find out that there is more in common than that's not alike.
And I think a lot of people need to hear that. A lot of people need to understand, if you just humble yourself and not go into situations defensive. A lot of times you may disagree on some things, but you're going to agree on a lot of things, but you have to open your heart up to even let that come in.
I mean, here this woman I've never seen before, don't know who she is and why she's here, and she had the same concerns about me, but we talked.
Yes.
And we talked, and you share who you are, and it's amazing that by doing that, you learn, I have a lot in common with this person.
Yes.
And even those things that we didn't have in common, it was an opportunity to learn about something I didn't know anything about. So you win-win. You find out, okay, here are things we can laugh and share about because they're common. I don't know about this world, but this is your world. So
that's what I can say that with Leadership Knoxville is the first day that I went in that room, it was like there were a few people thought that I would know more people. I only knew 3 people, and we have 61 people in the room. And is it intimidating? I'm not going to lie. It was intimidating. But it was challenging me to get to know people that I didn't know, didn't look like me, didn't have the same backgrounds, did not have the same journey as me, but I had to open my heart up to learn, and let people see me, see who I am, and I allow them to see them, yes. Right. And I think in your position, being at TVA at such a young age, I guarantee you felt the days of, God, why did you put me here?
Oh, yeah, many times.
Yes.
Many times. But what I was saying, though, about Robin is she was involved with the Police Advisory Review Committee and told Victor Ash that I was someone who should be on the committee. So that's how those relationships started. So I ended up volunteering on that committee because the person who I met as my roommate at Leadership Knoxville
is the one
years later. I mean, it wasn't even, it was several years later. Probably 20 years later.
Yes.
That the connection was made, but you never know how one connection is going to lead to another, and at what point were relationships you come up, oh yeah, that would be a good person based on this.
So let's talk about that. I think we're in a world now that people do not realize that everybody can eat. Everybody, I think that there's 2 types of people. There's people that realize, okay, we can all eat, we can all help each other, whatever goals that each other have to get there. And then there's another set of people that believe, that they're the only one to shine, or they're the only one, their insecurities will not allow them to help someone else achieve their goals. And I think you are truly a leader, and you have shown throughout your career, throughout your work in the community, that you want everybody to find their place and find their way in the community to build up the community. Can you speak on that?
Sure. The community is better when all of us bring to the table what we have. We all have been given skills. We all have been given abilities, and sometimes we need those tweaked, and that's when the Urban League comes in, because sometimes you may need more education, you may need more training. And so we at the Urban League can help people do that. sometimes you have the training and the skills, but you need the opportunity. So to be able to open up doors and marry, so to speak, people who have positions with people who can do the work.
Yes.
And so, but you just need that interest.
And sometimes people just need to know that there is somebody that believes in them and that they may not be there right now, but if you give them the tools or you give them the support, that type thing, or you can do it, that it pushes them to bring out their talents. I think a lot of times that people are scared to show their talents because for whatever trauma or whatever they've went through, that they thought that they weren't good enough, they're scared to show their talents because they think it's going to be looked as you're failing, you're not worthy, that type thing. And I think that's one thing about the Urban League, that y'all build up those people to say, okay, you can do this and we're willing to allow you to show your talent. Do you agree with that?
That's exactly right. Because when people walk through these doors, they walk through because they want something that's going to make them feel better, that's going to make them be able to help support their families, and support them. And so it's a variety of what they need. Like I said, they may need skills, they may need training, but they also need confidence. Because it's amazing. And I mean, I myself lack confidence. I was not, I was thrown into some positions sometimes where it was like, I don't know what to do. Why am I here? But to have somebody beside you who, number one, say you can.
Yes.
And number two, to say, don't worry if you mess up because I'm right here with you. And so.
Because they may not have heard that at home. And that's what people don't get. If you don't hear, especially at a young age, that you can do this, that type thing. And let me say this for the parents. Parents sometimes, whatever they've been taught, they can't teach you always something that they don't even know themselves.
You can't teach
what
you don't know.
What you don't know. And so you have to get out in the community and find mentors and coaches and different organizations that really will build you up. And I think that you at a young age got into a position at TVA that you knew you had to do more. It was like more, I have to give, because God blessed me with this great job, I can't just let it be all about me. Am I wrong about that?
No, that is so true. Because I looked at it as I have opportunities that my peers didn't have.
Yes.
I had opportunities that my parents didn't have.
I agree.
And so I have to walk in a way that lets everyone know you are a good hire.
Yes.
It was good to take the chance on you. Because like I said, when I went to North, there was one black male there, and I was the first black female there. So everyone was looking like, why are you here?
Why are you there?
Yeah,
why are you here?
What are you bringing to the table? So I had to really go in and show that I'm bringing value to the table, that I can develop these applications as well as the next person, if not better.
And I can build up people in the organization or in the job that will serve whatever they need served at in their job performance. A lot of times people don't realize is even if you have a talent and you're so good at it in a job, you still need to have somebody, your supervisor or somebody that will every so often tell you, thank you so much for what you've done.
Of course.
Thank you so much for building up this department. Thank you for showing up to work on time. And I think we're in a world that a lot of people do not get to hear, well done.
That is so important because the reality is we all take a job because we need a paycheck.
Yes.
But the paycheck is not the reason you stay on the job.
Correct.
You stay on the job because, number one, you feel like you're making a difference.
Yes.
And you feel like your difference is appreciated. So one of the things that I strive always as a manager is to catch people doing something right and let them know that they're doing it right.
Yes.
Because that, to me, for me personally, it got me excited about showing up to work every day. And I want everybody that I work with to be excited about showing up every day. So it is important that you tell people you're doing well at this.
Correct.
Because you're right, a lot of times we don't hear it. And a lot of times
You don't. You hear the
like,
complaints, but you don't hear, well done. You don't hear, thank you for being a part of this. You made it better. Or you've helped, a lot of employers, I try my best with all the businesses we have. I try my best to make sure that my employees know that I'll get my hands dirty, just like they're getting theirs dirty. I am a team member just like they are. They don't work for me, they work with me. And I always want them to feel like, okay, I'm giving them an experience that they can't get anywhere else. And I think that's the biggest thing is that employers need to understand everybody needs to feel worthy.
They feel worthy.
They need to feel that. And it's
I promise you, in situations where I know I was wanted and was glad to be there, there was no amount of time that I could give.
Yes.
If that was something, if we had to be
you gave
there
even more
clock, right?
because you knew you were worthy and you knew that they respected your craft.
I mean, there were times we would work around the clock because it was like, we have to get this done, we need to get this done.
Deadlines.
The deadlines. And you didn't mind doing it because you knew that it was appreciated.
So let's shift it a little bit about women.
Okay.
What would you tell a young woman that is trying to come up or maybe on their come up, but it feels like it's never gonna come? What would you tell a young woman in these days and times?
First of all, I think it's important to have patience because we are living in an instant society. I mean, if we push a button and something doesn't happen right then, it's like, throw it away.
I agree.
So number one, I would say have patience. Number two, I would say know who you are and know what you bring to the table. And
It's
number
one of a
three,
kind.
do not be ashamed to boast what you're bringing to the table. Because a lot of times, and I was that way, I'm afraid, or I don't want to say, well, they should know. No, people don't always know what you think they know. So don't be ashamed, don't be bashful to say, I can do this.
Yes.
I see a need over here and no one is doing it. Would you like for me to do it? Because
nobody can speak for you better than you.
No one can speak for you better than you. And don't give people an opportunity to say, oh, I didn't know she could do that.
That's a good point. That's a real good point.
Yeah.
And I think another thing is no matter what, don't compare yourself to anybody. Don't feel like you don't know what dues that that they had to pay to get where they're at, and they don't know yours. And when you start comparing yourself, that's where I think insecurities come. Right. Because you feel like you're less than. But if you focus, I've been on this journey for the last 3 years. God has told me to focus on me improving me spiritually, everything about me. And the one thing I had to learn was, because I've always been a giver, okay? And so I had to learn there's times that you have to give to yourself. You have to pour into you, and you can't pour into anybody else. And it's okay, because I felt like that, and society makes you feel this way, is that if you are focused on you, that's being selfish. But if you take it back to the Bible, and where God said there's put him first, then yourself, that's what God intended for you to do anyway, because you can't be all you can be for your community, your job, family, whatever, if you're lacking.
That's exactly right. And I've stretched myself. I've been there. I'm going to be honest with you. I've stretched myself where, I had young daughters, I was a wife, I was a worker, I was a volunteer, here and there. And it can drive you crazy.
It can.
So you have to put some balance. And I learned earlier about prioritizing everything. I sit down with a piece of paper one day and I wrote, what is important to me? At the end of the day,
I think more people need to do that.
Yeah. I mean, I did. I got in a quiet room, prayed about it, and got a piece of paper and a pencil and wrote down everything that I was doing and sit down and said, what's really important?
Yes.
If I died today, would I be concerned that it didn't happen?
Exactly. And what is true happiness? I think people will sit and say, oh, I'm happy. But then you say, well, what makes you happy? They can't tell you. You know, and you should be able to describe what happiness looks like for you. Mm-hmm. But I think a lot of people get so caught up into what society tells you happiness is. I tell my daughter all the time, and viewers, Adrian is in the room, and I want you to speak on this, is that I think, you know, young women nowadays, society says you're supposed to go get married and go have kids and all that. And I said, Adrian, take your time.
Right.
Take your time.
Because the thing about it is, you need to be a whole person before you try to blend with another, hopefully, whole person.
Correct. Because
a lot of times you're so quick to say, well, I need to do this and do this and do that, and you haven't even defined who you are. And that evolves. And
then when you get in marriage, you know that no matter how much you're in love, okay, both sides brings baggage in some kind of way. Right. And you have to deal with that. And you have to realize, okay, then when society says you need to have kids, so you go out here and you go get married, and okay, because society told me I was supposed to get married, and I'm supposed to go have kids. But if you haven't prepared yourself,
right,
and you don't know who you are, and you have not stopped, that fulfillment will not be there.
It will not be there. And then you end up with a situation where you're not happy.
Yes.
Your spouse is not happy. The children are not happy. And no one wants to be in that situation.
No.
I don't want to say that there will never be hiccups in any kind of relationship.
Yes.
But if you're comfortable with who you are and your spouse is comfortable with who he is,
different.
It's a totally different
And when
thing.
you got God in the center of all of
that, then it works out.
There's so many marriages out here that I would say that, and I can say this, I've been married before, and when I got married. You know what I'm saying? I had a wedding.
Mm-hmm.
I never thought about growing old with him. I never thought about sitting on the porch laughing older.
Mm-hmm.
I never thought about that. That was my sign,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't take that sign. Is that, you know, marriage, when you get married, you have no clue what you're signing on for.
But you know, when you're young, you look at the life that you're living day to day, and it's exciting. You go in places, you're doing things. You know, that's what young people do.
Right.
But you have to realize one day you're not going to be young. One day the only person going to be in the room with you is your spouse.
Yeah, exactly. And you got to make sure that you marry the right person.
So you got to make sure that person is somebody that you're okay being in the room with.
Yes.
You know, when there's nobody else but you. When you're out to dinner and it's just the two of you at the table.
Yes.
You know, it's not a whole room full of people. Everybody's laughing and talking.
And can you have a conversation and be enjoyed and fulfilled in that?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times that young women nowadays, and that's why I wanted to speak on it, because, you know, you're married. Yeah, I mean, you got grandkids, you got kids and grandkids, and you had a career, and I know there were things that you had to sacrifice to have all of that, and you had some days of, God, what am I doing? You know, that type of thing. What would you say to women about getting a balance?
It's impossible to be successful without balance.
True.
I mean, because without balance, you tilting one way or the other, and when you tilting, something is not getting fed.
Something is falling
off. So,
yes.
and so what I did personally, and I think is important, if you are that whole person that you want to be, you are who you are, you have a spouse, you have children trying to get them through school and fed every day, you're working, you know, all that. I think it's important to have girlfriends.
I agree.
Who are similar to you. You don't want a bunch of girlfriends who can't identify with what you're going through. But girlfriends...
I had to learn that.
Yes. Because sometimes, you know, you're trying to get your family together, your career together. You forget that sometimes you need to step away and breathe.
And just be you.
And just be you, to breathe. And so one of the things that helped for me was to have that little circle, small circle, not big, small circle of girlfriends who know you, who have similar situations. Take a weekend and just hang out. It could be, going to a hotel room and going out to dinner and laughing and talking and getting re-energized and realize I'm not the only one dealing with this.
Yeah.
And then you can go back and deal with it. Yeah. Because you need to be you, but you need to be you in an environment that's wholesome.
I agree. I think a lot of times, because people will say, oh, you and David have a great marriage. And I tell people, we do have a great marriage, but we do have days that we don't like each other. Mm-hmm. We do have days that it's like, he's getting on my nerves. Mm-hmm. And I'm getting on his, you know what I'm saying? And I think that if more people would just be honest, that especially people that's been married a long time, y'all need to speak up, and you don't have to tell your business, but you need to speak up and say, you know what, you're not going to like each other every day. You're not going to get along every day, and you're not going to agree every day, but you have to, I believe, you have to be equally yoked.
You have to be equally yoked, and you have to love and respect each other.
You do.
Because that's the
respect
thing.
To me is better than love.
It is. It is. If respect is better than love.
It is.
And if you respect the person, then number one, you're going to trust what they say and do.
Correct.
And that's so important because sometimes you don't agree with what they're saying and doing.
Correct.
But if you trust them, then you can say, I don't understand. It's not what I would do, but I'm okay with it if that's what you want to do.
I'll tell you this. My company, Turn & Knox, we wanted to get a box truck, and I wanted it now. And my husband kept saying, Ivanka's going to come. And we're a praying family. Me and David pray every night together, and that is sacred to me and David because you can't have a household running if the husband and wife is not praying. That's just my opinion. But David, you have to trust, and the reason why I'm bringing this up is what you're saying about respect and trust. David kept saying to me, Ivanka, it'll come. We're praying, God. And I'm like, okay, God, I want it right now, whatever. When I tell you the husband I have was so patient with it, and the days I would go to Adrian to get Adrian. I'm like, Adrian, no, we didn't. And Adrian would be like, Mom, it's going to come. It's going to come. Because I thought that she would say what I was wanting to hear at that time. But Adrian was like, Mom, it's going to come. And literally, it came. God, I literally put a post on my social media that I was looking for one. A lady that I've known for 20-some years that I trust wholeheartedly reached out to me and said, Ivanka, I saw that you were looking for a box truck and I'm about to sell mine. Ivanka, let's make a deal. But if I wouldn't have listened to my husband and just stayed still, I could have made a bad mistake in going and getting in debt. This just happened, and that type of thing. So I agree with you when you say you've got to trust the person that you're married to or you're in a relationship with, and you got to respect them. And, I thought when I got married, I thought love would conquer all. Love does not conquer all.
Too many people have been divorced and still love each other.
Exactly. And so it's like I learned, like in the last 10 years, I learned respect is so much greater than love. Love will come. But respect, if you respect somebody and trust them, you can build anything. Right. So I would say to all women out there, take your time. Take your time and understand if you're in the career part of it, that even takes time. You're not going to be the boss today. But if you keep working, maybe later on, you will be the boss. And you keep going. And she is prime example of being a boss. So let's talk about the phone call of, will you become an interim CEO?
Yeah, that was a phone call.
Yes, let's talk about it.
Because I had retired once before and went back to work. So I was not ever thinking about going back to work again.
Now keep in mind, she has the kids, the grandkids, and she does all the things in the community volunteering. And she got the phone call that there was a position that needed to be filled. And it was a call that I think you're perfect for. She is the interim CEO of the Knoxville Area Urban League. And when she got that call, it was shoes that needed to be filled and conquered till the next one comes in. But I know that you probably were like, what? Me come out of retirement? Take us back to that and your thoughts that day.
Well, my first thought, of course, was no, because I'm retired. And I've worked I've worked a long time.
Yes, ma'am.
When you consider, I started working when I finished high school and, worked forever. I was like, I will never work full time anywhere.
Yes.
Just
and you've earned that,
right. So my first thought was no, but then I thought about the organization.
Okay.
Most organizations that no would have stayed no. But the Urban League is so important to this community. I myself benefited from the Urban League years ago when I was starting out trying to find a position to use my skills in Knoxville.
Let me ask you this, and then we can go back to that. Please tell us, what does the Urban League do? Tell my viewers, for the ones that don't know, what the Knoxville Area Urban League does. I know it's a lot of stuff, but if you can shorten it, what is the mission?
Yeah, to shorten what we do, the Urban League basically removes barriers for people who are disadvantaged to be able to realize the things that all Americans should be able to do, which is have a house to live in, a job to take care of them and their family, equal access to anything that the community offers. And so we at the Urban League believe that everyone should have those things if they want them. And so we do have programs that help if someone, for instance, wants a house, but their credit scores are not good. Well, we work with them. We have classes on finances
and how to build it up.
To change that.
Because a lot of people, let me say this, viewers, a lot of people, with your parents, I can say I come from an educated family, but I can literally say I wasn't taught credit. Mm-hmm. Yes, my grandfather always said pay on time. Mm-hmm. He always told me don't have a lot of debt. I heard my dad say it, that type thing. But I had two different parents. I had one parent that loved to spend. That was my mother. Mm-hmm. Okay? Rest in peace. I love my mother. Somebody say something about her, we have a problem. But my mother was a spender. Mm-hmm. My father was very frugal, mm-hmm. and he did not believe in having credit cards. Mm-hmm. Okay? He did not believe, he said, if you don't have the money right then to pay for whatever you want, then that means no. Okay? But
and both of those messages are not the clear message.
Exactly.
They're extreme.
Okay? They're both extreme. And what I had to learn is that, okay, you've got to have credit, okay? But you don't need to go haywire with your credit either.
Right.
And you
need to manage credit.
Yes, and you don't need to live off credit.
And you don't need to live off credit.
Yes.
Credit is good because it allows you to take advantage of things that you couldn't without it. But it shouldn't drive you. You should always be in the driver's seat.
Yes.
And unfortunately, that's what we find. A lot of people who have let the credit drive them, the credit scores
drive them
low.
Crazy.
They are not able to, take care of the obligations they've already gotten. So how can they ever get clear to start new obligations like housing and those kind of things?
And the hard part, like these days and times, housing is a big deal.
It is a big deal.
Because it's so expensive.
Housing is expensive. Plus, it's the one thing in America that has created generational wealth.
Correct.
If home ownership allows you to build so that the next generation has something and you can
hand down, as my grandfather says.
And so by not participating in that and becoming a permanent renter, then you never get over that hump that one day I will be able to, number one, if you live long enough, you can stop paying your mortgage. You
Correct.
pay it off.
And I think some people, they get insecure about, well, my mom, my dad, I've had clients like this that has never, like nobody in their family has ever owned a home. So why should I want to own a home? Nobody else did, and grandma didn't do it, and this or whatever. But just because your grandmother or your mother or your father, whoever, did not have it, that does not mean that you cannot achieve home ownership.
I mean, when you look at this country back, when the GI Bill.
Yes.
You go back that far.
Correct.
Soldiers came home from fighting the war and they could get low-cost loans to get a home.
To buy a home.
And then their children after that inherited more and continue. So
renting should be temporary, not forever.
Yes, I think renting is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And we help people with renting.
Yes.
We help people here at the Urban League. We help people get into housing. We help people with down payments to, if they, first month's rent. So renting is an option. And
yes.
we do help
and
people.
And you have to start somewhere.
You have to start somewhere. But that should not be your end all.
I agree.
Especially for young people.
Yes.
Now, older people at this point, we want them comfortable and
correct.
And so we help people get
depends on the situation
into stable housing, because it's so important to get in
a
place that is clean, that is free from crime. That you don't have to worry about illicit things going on outside of your door. You're an older person, you shouldn't have to live like that.
Right.
So we try to help with deposits on rental places and things to help people get in a comfortable, safe environment. But when you're young and just starting off in your career, housing should be a primary.
It should.
It should be. Before you start filling your closet full of clothes that's going to wear out the next day or be out of style the next week.
Yes. A home, my grandfather used to say, that's the one thing, as long as you pay your mortgage and your taxes,
it's yours.
Nobody can take it away from you.
Yes.
And so, it comes with sacrifice.
It does.
And she's right. Clothes and shoes will go out of style, but your home, a roof over your head, brings a security that is unmatched.
Right.
And so at the Urban League, y'all teach people how to gain generational wealth, how even in jobs, I know y'all teach people how to fill out applications and the resume and all that kind of stuff. But those are really important things to know because everybody is not taught that at home. And so the Urban League teaches a lot of things that you didn't learn at home.
Right.
Do you agree with that?
But there's skills that are needed to be successful in this world.
I agree.
So we teach them. We even have entrepreneur classes for people who have a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
And the community could benefit from the great idea.
Yes.
But they need a business plan to make it work. They may need financial backing, all of those kind of things. So we teach classes and we have community.
And how to connect.
Right. We have corporations that help teach the classes. So it's not all us. And that's another thing that the Urban League does depend on. And that is corporations lending their assets
anytime
to make us help.
The Landis family, if you ever need us, we will come teach a class. Most definitely. Because somebody had to pave the way. I said to you today, I thank you for paving the way because I had to see somebody that looked like me. I had to see that, she's been in corporate America. She's been in nonprofit. She's done all these things. And when she got the call, she accepted the call. Very easily, and not saying that it would have been a bad thing, but very easily when you got the call, you could have said, you know what, I'm done. Let someone else do it. But you still saw a need and you filled it. And let's talk about that need.
Well, again, it was funny when you said that. A couple of people called me and was like, I can't believe you're going back to work, but
Yes.
It's the Urban League.
Yes.
And they said
and it made sense.
And they said that made sense.
Yes.
That is the one organization that you could utilize your skills.
She's still paving the way for people.
You can utilize your skills, and then it was an interim position.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew that I only had a few months to come in, see what was necessary to stabilize the organization if it needed that, to make sure that the community understood we're still here, we're still providing services, and we still need your support.
And you wanted the Urban League to be that connect and you didn't want what happened to be a shadow over the Urban League.
The Urban League the doors are still open.
She said the doors are still open.
We're still providing services. We're still needed in the community.
Yes.
That's the thing. And that's why I said yes. Because the Urban League...
After you said yes, did you hang up the phone and say, what did I just say?
No. No, it was so funny. I did for a second, but I didn't have much time because I had to go to work. So I didn't have a lot of time to reflect on it. Although I must admit that first day it was a long drive home. I was so exhausted.
Because you hadn't done it in a long time.
Exhausted. I was driving home saying, what have I done, dear Lord?
She was like, I could have stayed at home.
I could have stayed at home. I put all this energy because it was a lot of energy that first day. But,
I can imagine.
And I promise you, I thought for a minute, maybe I don't want to do this. But I said, no, dear God, I prayed and you said you're going to be with me. So he's been with me.
He's been with
time, There, like I said, I'm not in the best physical health, but through God's grace and mercy, I'm able to put one foot in front of the other. I come in each day with the intention of making this the best organization. So whomever comes in after me just has to hit the ground running. They don't have to build up anything. That's what I'm trying to do.
So you being the interim, so what all do you do as an interim?
Everything.
She said everything.
No, seriously, I'm taking this job as though it's mine.
Okay.
I still meet with external corporations to try to get them involved in the Urban League. Manage the staff. Manage the staff. Make sure that they have the skills that are needed for the position. Make sure that we have funding, because funding is so important.
Okay.
I mean, I'm constantly looking at the budget, ask the staff. I'm like, when they want to spend something,
she's like, where's the budget?
Yeah, what line item do that fall under? Because it's important that we're good stewards of the funds. We're asking the community to pour into us through grants and donations. And right now we are starting our annual membership drive.
Okay.
As you well know, February the 20th, 2025 was to be our annual meeting luncheon, and that was the day we got snow.
Yes.
And so we had to scurry around real quick and figure out how can we do this. And so we gathered at the convention center on February the 19th at 4:00 and presented and recorded the program that we had planned to present and had it aired on the 20th. We notified everybody the snow was coming. We can't have it, but we want you to know what the Urban League is doing.
So you want people to become members of the Urban League, and tell us more about what does the Urban League need besides membership? Do they need volunteers? What do y'all need from the community to make Urban League grow?
Well, we do need the funding, which is why we're asking people this time to go to our website, which is theCaul.org.
Say it one more time, please.
Thecaul.org. That's TheKaul, which stands for the Knoxville Area Urban League.
Yes.
.org.
Okay.
And seriously, go to the website, and where it says you can become a member, seriously look at the options. We have for individuals, you can be a member of the Urban League for just $25 a year. So it's not a
$25 a year
investment for an individual.
You spend more than $25 when you go to Chop House.
Tell me about
Let's be clear.
Yeah. So just $25, And what that says is we believe in what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you can give more, and we hope people give more.
Right.
But you can be a member for $25.
And you'll be a part of something. You know, you have to think about, you know, I tell people careers are great. But you got to do more than that. To me, when it comes to God, God is going to ask our works. God's going to want to know that we made a difference. That's my opinion. And so sitting on the couch doing nothing for your community, and I'm not throwing off on people sitting on the couch, because I sit on the couch sometimes too. But I'm just saying,
and I can't wait to get back on that couch. She said,
I can't wait to get back on the couch. But I'm saying, but you earned that right to be on that couch. And I'm saying to younger people, you know, pay your dues, build up your community. If you see there's things that your community is lacking, be the person that says, hey, let me introduce this to my community. You know, start you a business. You know, go do some things out in your community. And everything cannot be about money. You know, money's going to come to us. You know, if you work hard, it's going to come. You know, if you love the Lord and, you know, that type of thing. But when you get that money, give back to different organizations that you believe in. And Urban League is one of those organizations that you need to believe in and invest in.
Invest in, because when you invest in organizations like the Urban League, you're investing in your community. And we all know that a community that's well invested provides the environment so that everyone can succeed.
Everyone can succeed.
And see, corporations, you can become a corporate member of the Urban League for only $3,500 a year. And that includes a table at the annual luncheon for 10 people. Okay. The annual gala, the big gala that we have in October.
Yes. And hear me when I said Turning Knox was there for the past 2 years. And I thank God for y'all, because, you know, y'all made sure to bring us back. And everybody loved the 360. Right. And that's where I first met you. Right. It was a day. And hear me when I tell you, when I met her staff was there and everything, but she was in there working just as much. Like, I didn't even know you. And it took one of your employees was like, that's our CEO. And I was like, huh? Yeah. She greeted me with a smile. You thanked me. I remember you walking up and saying, y'all did such a professional job. You know, thank you. And I was like, oh, wow. You were just so humble that day. You know, and I didn't even know who you were at the time, you know, because I never saw you before. But I just have to say is you want to come behind an organization that someone will smile at you and be kind to you. And I will tell you, this interim CEO is that person. So I have to ask this question, because everybody's going to say, Yvonka why didn't you ask the question? So I know you won't be the CEO forever.
No.
What's the plan for the new CEO?
Well, the board will make that decision, and the board has contracted with a search firm. Okay. And that search firm has worked with several other urban leagues, so it's very familiar with the needs of an urban league CEO. Okay. They have actually received applications and are going through them and doing interviews. So within a couple of months, I should be the former interim CEO. Yes.
She said, and she will be able to go back to her couch and enjoy retirement.
There you go.
You know, so she's telling you that get excited. There's going to be a new CEO come and get in this position and hit the ground running, that type thing. So what do you teach your grandchildren about building up their community?
Well, first of all, it's funny, my daughters, I have 2 daughters. Okay. And they saw me being involved when they were little. And it's so funny, my oldest daughter is a replica of me. Yeah, she's in Chattanooga, and she's on every board and doing everything. Her husband says, well, you know, I married a little Avice. because she is involved.
Yes.
And my younger daughter is as well outside Atlanta. And so my grandchildren see what they saw.
Mm-hmm.
If you are making a difference in the community and involved, then they will too. Because I remember it was so funny when I was at TVA.
Daughters have to see their mothers.
When I was at TVA, one of the things they asked me to do was TVA was responsible for forming a partnership. It was Black Achievers. So the way it was set up, they had adults were called adult Black Achievers.
Okay.
And then they worked with middle school young people, and they were young Black Achievers. And so it was more or less like mentoring, and we would meet once a month and, had different activities and stuff. So when they asked me to do that, if I would be one of the Black Achievers, I said yes, under the condition that my daughter could be one of the young achievers. And so those kind of things, I brought her along because, again, it was like she could benefit from the program. She wasn't paired with me because that didn't make sense for her to be paired with me. But she learned so much through the program. And so any kind of time that you can still give to the community, but then try to tie your family
and build your family up
at the same time, it's.
Are y'all hearing what she's saying? Because Adrienne, I'll say this, I'm so glad you brought that up, because Adrienne came into our real estate business at 20 years old, and of course it was intimidating because your clients are going to be way older than you and that type thing, but she felt like she was in the shadow of me and her dad. And I said, at first I felt bad for her because I'm like, they would introduce her, like people would say, oh, that's Yvonka's daughter. They wouldn't even say her name, and I would correct them.
Mm-hmm.
I said, she has a name, but then it got to a point that they stopped doing it, but Adrienne started getting comfortable in my shadow, and I was like, no. She's like, well, people have me in your shadow. I said, no, you have yourself in my shadow. I said, step out, that type thing. And I think it's great to give your children a stepping stone and teach them, okay, here you go. Because why would we go and sacrifice and do all of that if we couldn't hand that down as well? Mm-hmm. So I think that is a big thing is for anybody that's out there that may have a family business or may have, parents that are in great fields that their parents can open up a door, don't look at it like you're in a shadow. Excel from what they've taught you. Take that opportunity. Yeah. Take that opportunity, because why would your parents do what they've done, for you to say, oh, well, I just want to do it all on my own, if you don't have to. Take that opportunity and go.
And really and truly, that's how so many great businesses have survived, because of the generation being passed on. And think about the luxury. When you are young, trying to figure out what you're going to do in life and starting from zero, you are starting with nothing.
Yes. Me and David are first generation entrepreneurs. Like, all my family were educators. My husband's side of the family were educators. And my grandfather, he wanted me to be a teacher so bad, but that wasn't the calling for me. And I didn't know that I was going to be an entrepreneur for almost 27 years. But it was like I had to follow my path, and be okay with it, because at first I did feel like, okay, I was letting my grandfather down or letting my, my family down, that type thing. But I realized that God's path is God's path.
God's path, and I'm so thankful.
Yes, so thankful, because God's path is always the right path to go. So as we end this, what would you tell the community? What does this community need?
This community needs more appreciation. Appreciation for the fact that we live in a place that is, first of all, beautiful.
It is.
I mean, this area, when you look at what God created, the mountains, the rivers, the greenery, it's a beautiful place.
It really is. And you get so much in East Tennessee.
Yes. So first of all, appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Second of all, appreciate what you can bring to the community. Because sometimes we think, oh, I'm not someone with a big name and a big title and a big whatever. Everybody can contribute to our success. So don't be intimidated whatever you have to contribute, use it.
Yeah.
Find a venue that will allow you to excel, whether it's another nonprofit, whether it's starting your own nonprofit,
Yes.
whether it's starting your own for-profit.
Yes.
You know, I think that we need to be more inviting. And then second of all, I just think that those who have opportunities should be looking for those who don't and bring them along. We have too many people who go into a cocoon at the end of the day because they've got theirs and sit out and look out the window at those who don't have and wonder what's wrong with them.
Oh.
What's wrong with them is you haven't opened up and given them the opportunity.
And you got to realize, you know, the thing of, you know, they say give someone their flowers before it's too late. Tell people that paved the way for you. Humble yourself enough to say, if you know somebody that's paved the way and they've helped you, tell them thank you. You know, you have to stop and say, thank you for paving the way. Thank you for putting time in me.
Right.
Thank you for, you know, mentoring me, whatever, that type thing, because God is listening and he's wanting you to be thankful for everything he gives, because he sends those people as a vessel of him. You know, so that type thing, I do think that this community, more people need to say to Dr. Reid, thank you for paving the way for me. And thank you for being that example that I can be proud of.
Well, thank you for saying that. I never really thought that anybody was, you know, was paying attention, watching. I'm doing what I think God's called me to do, and I'm just sort of speechless that someone is noticed and someone it matters.
God told me a certain part of why it was time to bring you on, and I told you off camera that 3 different times your name has came up, and it was not time. Now I know why. He wanted me to give you your flowers, and he wanted me to tell you that you paved the way for so many. Thank you.
I don't know what
she's
to say.
Speechless. She's speechless. But you don't have to say anything. Just know that a lot of people watch you, and a lot of people are growing because of you, and your life is not in vain because you work to make sure it's not in vain.
Well, I thank you for saying that, and you know, I go back to my grandmother. When I was a little girl, she was the world to me, and unfortunately, she died when I was 16 years old, and I just was devastated. But I promised her that I would make her proud. I didn't know how that would happen.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I was going to do, but she's been a guiding star for me.
Yes.
Because I say, am I doing what you wanted me to do? And she was a community person. She was a loving person. No one came in contact with her that didn't have something positive to say. So I thank you for saying that, because it reminds me that I didn't let her down, I guess. You
didn't let her down. And know this is that there are so many people that may be not thought about. Let me tell her thank you. And so let me be the one to speak up for everybody is thank you for building this community. Thank you for not tarnishing the dream. You're living out the dream, and you're living it unapologetic. So thank you.
Where's the tissue?
So tune in this Friday, because we have Dr. Reid on Talking Tennessee. Bye, guys.
Thanks for listening to Talkin' Tennessee with Yavanka. Watch out for our weekly episodes from the First Family of Real Estate, and check us out on the web, www.yavankasalesrealestate.com. See our videos on Yavanka's YouTube channel, or find us on Facebook under Yavanka Landis, and Twitter @Yavanka Landis. And don't forget to tell a friend about us. Until next time, Yavanka signing off.